G'day folks, Rich Birdes from Brighter Days, Christchurch, New Zealand with a quick tutorial guide on patching PowerApp content to SharePoint lists. You can use submit form very easily, but there are a few things in submit form that may not work or the way you want them to work, such as a hyperlink column, or you may have content on different screens in your app across, say, different areas that you all want to push into the same particular SharePoint list item, and you won't be able to do that with a form, so you have to use patch to do that. You could use a Power Automate workflow, but the easiest way to get that in there is using a patch statement. So this guide put together for my team here in Christchurch, and also I use it for my own reference to help remember the formulas and to basically grab workflows to make them reusable if I need them. So it's useful to me. Hopefully it's going to be useful to you too. Step you through it, what we've got first of all, and then we'll go through how each particular piece pushes together. So let's jump on in. So I've got a basic two-screen app here with basically, I could make this as one screen, but I'm showing it on two just to make it easier for you. So we've got create a new item with a patch statement, and also an edit statement as well. Now for the new, let's step through that. If I run through my data source in SharePoint, okay, so we've got basically text. Text could be, it doesn't matter, multi-line text or single line of text. It's just a simple way to get that into SharePoint. If you're using HTML fields or rich text markup in PowerApps, you can send that through as well. And just do with this one today, we're just looking at just the basic text because that's the more easy end. Numbers, date column, person column to patch a person column, patch a boolean, yes, no, true, false, toggle, patch a choice, patch a hyperlink, or not really patch it, but show you how to get that content. So you've got a URL and a description showing, lookup patch, a single item lookup, and then also a multi-select lookup, which will come in from your Power App. So let's play this and show you how that works. So let's go demo, capital E. There we go. So obviously I've got numbers showing only on that one. I'll show you how to do that if you need it. Regular date column, just with my format set to dd/mm/yyyy to go my day, month, year setup. A person, people, looker, upper. Choice, so let's go miney, lookup, country, and then so hyperlink. Let's do Bing, and then let's call it the Bing. The Bing, and let's add some multi-select countries as well. So I've got this in my form. I can then patch that through to SharePoint, grabbing the URL and the description and my multi-line items. Let's jump to SharePoint, just refresh things. All right, so there we go. So we've got demo there, and let's just click it. Look, I've got multi-selects in there. I'll just pop out this, and I'll do edit all so you can see the fields. So I've got my dates come in, my yes, no's come in, choices come in. My hyperlink column has the URL and the description, country, single lookup, and then multi-select. I'm not using attachments in this particular form, but you could do if you wanted to. All right, so let's jump back to the app and then show how we can make that work for an edit. I'll be going through how this all works in a sec as well. Let's play it. Okay, so then what I'm showing here is also I am able to get the hyperlink, description, and URL. If you pull out a regular SharePoint form in a Power App as a form, you won't get the description. You'll just see the URL. So you need to do a bit of magic to make that happen, which I'll step you through. And I've got basically just a little gallery showing my items, and I do get my item, and I go and I call the list item, and I get the description field for it. So I put a pending thing in there so you can see it. And here's my demo item we just did. So Bing and the Bing, that's all showing up, and all the other fields are showing up. All right, so let's talk So basically I can edit this and update it, and it will update again, same stuff, but basically I wanted to show how you could pull in the hyperlink and the multi-select. Multi-select is dead easy. All right, let's go through the main patch statement for the new form. Okay, so we've got fields, and I've just basically called each one like text title, text number, combo person, DD choice column. Okay, so let's step through each. It is in a SharePoint form 1. I should have renamed that to make it look a bit nicer, but okay, so the main things to note here, we're going to show the patch statement on select. It's kind of complicated with a few things in there, but if you're not patching multi-select and you don't use hyperlinks, then most of what you need for a patch is right there. To talk you through how we're doing the hyperlink, I'm not patching the hyperlink column directly into SharePoint. I'm using PowerAutomate workflow for that. I could use a patch, but I would only ever be able to get this hyperlink column into the SharePoint list. I wouldn't get the description. So basically my URL and my description would both say bing.com. And then for multi-select lookups, what we need to do there is build a collection. So Audrey Gordon's got a clip on this as well. So this is the same process. Basically collect all of the information that you have in your choices and then put them into a format that you can then patch directly into SharePoint. All right, so let's jump into the OnSelect. All right, so I've put a few notes in there just to remember for myself. We're basically multi-select combo boxes, get a collection first, put in the format to collect, and use for all. Hyperlink columns, as I said already, you can push the URL in, you can't push the description, so we use PowerAutomate to do that with an HTTP request to do it, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. So as I said, if you're not patching multi-select, then don't worry about this bit, but if you are, all right, so our multi-select column is called CBO multi. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to do a clear collect on a column called multi-select. Okay, and then we should move this. So just click away from that and make this a little bit smaller so you can see what's inside it. And so there's my 3 countries that I've selected. So it's got the ID and the value, right? So I just grab it, CBO underscore multi, the name of the column, the field input type, and then dot selected items. So let's make a collection with a clear collect so that's fresh each time. And then I move that into another collection. I was trying to do this all in the same collection, and I was finding it was always putting the same item in. So creating one collection as like a placeholder, and then pushing into a proper collection to patch was the answer. So then I clear. This is the collection called MultiSelect Patch that I want to push into SharePoint with my values. So I clear it first. I don't want to bring in any other values from elsewhere. And then I do a for all. So I grab every item that's in the multi-select column, so called multi-select, so that the initial selected items, and I collect into a new collection. I basically do the same thing, but I add in this reference. I'll post this PowerApp up so you can download it. Grab this formula or just freeze frame and type that bad boy up. Save that into a nice place where you can reuse it again and again and again because you will need it. So for the SharePoint lookups, it's SP list expanded reference. This is a personal one which we'll do in a second. And then all I'm doing, I'm putting one column is the OData type, and I just take the ID and the value pair from the lookup. Every lookup column is going to want to have an ID and a value, unlike a choice field, which is just going to want the value. So you're going to want to have an ID pair in it, and it's in my collection in a table format, so that I can then dynamically build out as many items into my collection as I've selected in my multi-select. So once I've got that, all I need to remember is call multi-select patch. That's the name of the item. And so if I show you within the patch statement to push that into, that's the column name, look up multi-select, and all I do is put the name of the collection. I don't need to put any fancy work around the OData type because I've already done that. I'm just putting in the the name of the collection, because that's already got everything in the correct table format that's going to be needed for a multi-select lookup. Alright, but yeah, to download this Power App and you can grab the same detail as needed. Okay, and what I'm also doing to step through is I'm creating a context variable at the start of the patch. You don't need to do this if you don't want to. The reason I'm doing it is because I want to reuse the ID of the item that I create when I patch it. And I'm going to be using that ID to create my hyperlink column with my URL and my description. So context variable is really good on that screen only, like a variable which can be used across the app, a global variable. So I just basically update the context. I'm calling it con new item and then colon. I don't need to do anything else. I can put my patch statement in, which I'll step through, and then at the end of my patch statement, I would normally finish there, but for my context variable, sorry, I'm putting an extra swiggle and close bracket. So basically that's what I've got. And so for my hyperlink, so I'm not pushing my hyperlink column, but I am calling a PowerAutomate workflow. And so I've created that context variable, con new item, and that gives me everything that I've just created. And I've deliberately left this forms data on the screen rather than clear it or reset it, so you can see it here as well. And so what we can see here is there is an ID. And so I can basically, for my PowerAutomate workflow, all I'm doing is I'm taking the URL and I'm taking the name or the description of my that I want to use for my hyperlink, and then I'm also using the ID, so I know what, so PowerAutomate will know what ID to go and update. All right, so we'll jump across to the workflow for that, but the most important thing there is, yeah, if you ever want to reuse the ID or any other items from a patch statement, context variable is the way to go, and just have it set up at the start of the patch and then close it at the end of the patch, and then after the patch statement you can reuse that variable. It doesn't really impact performance much, depending on how many columns you're patching. It's probably the biggest impact on performance, but this will give me IDs and all the other fields that I can reuse in other workflows, or if I want to do child, like parent-child relationships, to patch other SharePoint lists. So to be associated with my parent list item, I can use this variable approach to do that. So I basically have a parent ID and child ID running through. So I've got 7 basically going through there. Now let's make sure we get the right one. Yeah. So basically, update list item with hyperlink is the name of our. Oh, am I going to run out of battery? Okay, power cable plugged in. So update list item with hyperlink is the name of our PowerAutomate workflow, and that's here. So I'm setting 3 variables to it, or 3 items to it. That's just grabbed. I could have renamed them, make them prettier, but let's just show what it is. So basically, PowerApps is the trigger, and to update a SharePoint column that's hyperlink type, you need to send an HTTP request to SharePoint. Can't do it with update item. Doesn't expose the description element that you want to do. So I'm going to leave this on the screen here for a bit and then step you through it. So I've got my 3 things from PowerApps. So that's the ID of the item, which is the context variable that we've reused. And then my description. That's called body 1, and I've got body. Is the URL. So basically, it's a post HTTP request. I use the API get list by title, so you could use another variable in there if you wanted to make this reusable. For this one, I'm not. Especially, that's the name of my list, and then items. This will give us an ID, basically an integer of it. I want to use the following headers: so accept content type X HTTP method and if match, to asterisk to catch all. Could use an e tag on there, but I found just use the little star symbol there to make that work. HTTP method merge, just use that. It will allow the item to be updated. So that's your headers, and this is standard accept JSON type for both accept and content type. In the body, this is where all the action happens. 2 things to remember: you're going to want to have your list name listed up in your sp.data DemoListToPatchTo, and then have list item. It's just the metadata column that the rest items, the rest of service is going to want. So that's basically the name of your list. I know you've named it up here, but you need to name it in the body as well. Then you have the name of your column at the top, and then split out, so metadata, SP type, field URL value, and then description. That's the text that will show, so Bing or Google or Fred as the name of the URL, the friendly name, and then the URL. If you're not interested in using showing friendly text for URLs, then you don't have to worry about this at all. But if you are, this is the way to go. And so basically the URL goes in there. You could put the URL into the item already and then update it, but calling the workflow right after the patch statement, there's no major impact on performance. We're just updating one item. Unless you've got a real shonky internet and it's taken a while, or SharePoint's down or PowerApps down, then it might take a while to do it, but you'll be able to jump in and see it. That's what you want to have running to show you how that's gone through and worked. That's one we just ran. So PowerApps is sent through the 3 fields, so the context variable 7, and then the Bing, and then the URL we wanted, and then the request type comes through. Basically, so we've got the DemoListToPatchTo hyperlink column, and then we know further up here that we're doing item number 7, and then we've got description and the URL, and that's all we need. That will send through and do the job fantastically. Okay, so let's go back to the rest of the patch statements. So for regular text, you just basically call in the name of your column, colon, name of your input field, and then dot text. For a number column, it's the same syntax, except you want to wrap that into value open bracket, then field name, because PowerApps just grabbed it says number, right? But and it's only lets you put numbers in, but it's still coming through in the patch as a text. So you've got to tell it to match your data source. So it's value text underscore number dot text. Date. As you type these as well and put a little period or full stop, it's going to show you prompts to what you need. But basically, for a date column, it's the name of the field and then dot selected date. Okay, for person type. So what we used to do was have to have force out the claims value, and it was just wrap a bit of text and then add the user. Basically, we'd have like the mail wouldn't be claims, it'd be mail or email, showing after the person's name, because claims syntax would have this at the front and then the email. But now there is a new, I don't know how new it is, but it's new for me. There's a claims selected.claims field that used to be around like when I was patching this several months ago, but basically that's available. So basically you need to have 4 values, so claims, department, display name, and email. You could put job title and picture, but you don't. You have to name them, but you don't have to send a value to them, and it's just as well, because the picture one could be quite awkward. And all we've got for the O data type is the same basically syntax as a person column, squiggly open bracket, O data type, list expanded, and it's user, as opposed to expanded reference, which we have for all the other types of complex field types in SharePoint. This one's a user. And so basically just call that, wrap it in squigglies, claims, department, display name, email, job title, picture, and then this is the name of the person column in my form, and it's dot selected, and then dot, as you type away, you'll get all of them. Oh, there is a picture one as well, so it might actually just work right up to that. I haven't tested that, so feel free to try it. May just whack it in there, and the job title will be there as well. I just don't need to send them, because I only need these values from my patch. Whoops. Okay, so for true false column, yes no, it's basically the toggle, yes no, and then dot value. Okay, real easy for that one. You used to have to do like if equals this, then make it false or make it true, but you don't need to do that for this anymore for patch. For a choice column, you're doing very similar to a lookup. You call the OData type, expanded reference, and then rather than the ID, you just got the value, basically. So it's a single item drop-down choice, so it's the name of the drop-down dot selected dot value. And let's just tidy that up so we've got kind of looks like it's all together. Okay, and then for a lookup for a single item, same thing, OData type, SB list expanded reference, but you need the ID. And as you do these as well, so for a single item, it's going to be selected. For multi-select, it's going to be selected items because you're building a table of items. But if you set your data source to only receive one item from the lookup, it's going to be the name of your input for the lookup, and then dot selected, and then you're going to get basically ID and value pairs come through, and you need to send both for a lookup. So then that's that one. All right, and then basically, as I've shown already, for the multi-select, we send the whole collection, and that patches the full list item with multi-select lookups, and if you want to use the hyperlink description and URL combo as well. So that's how that one works. Okay, to skip over to the other thing that's useful to show you for this tutorial is on edit. So if you just have a gallery like we've got here, which shows me my list items, and then I click on my edit button, that's basically going to select that row, and I can have a form here, which is set to edit mode, showing my demo list data source, and I have basically my item is my gallery, gallery underscore SP items dot selected. So that's the one I clicked. I could click anywhere in that but I'm basically just doing it for the button, make it obvious to push that. And then this will update. So if you can have that set normally, and for all the field types except hyperlink, all of the values would come through as expected. If you've got an edit form you've put into PowerApp from SharePoint, by default it will show the hyperlink column, and it will just show you parent dot default, which is the hyperlink column, and it doesn't need to be decided into hyperlink, it will just be parent dot default. I've split that so we can see two different things, but you only have one. So I've unlocked this cell. I've unlocked it so I can play with it, and I've copied the same variable or same input field in, and I've changed it so that it doesn't show the URL, but it shows me a variable. And so this variable is something that I dynamically create via PowerAutomate that happens when I push these edit buttons. So let's step through that. That's probably the only major useful thing to show you so I can make this work. So to show you that again, basically as I click edit, it jumps over to pending, and then it grabs the description name from the URL field. So what we're doing there, we're calling PowerAutomate, and we're doing a respond back to PowerApps to get that. Okay, show you the button. So I am selecting the parent, but then I'm also setting the variable pending ... So the variable is called get var get hyperlink success. You can call it whatever you want. And then basically that's the initial one, and then I set the variable hyperlink success to be the response back from my PowerAutomate workflow called get item hyperlink, and I'm only sending one variable to the PowerAutomate workflow, and that's the ID of the selected item. So I can just use gal sp items dot selected items, which will be the ID number, and then my response back is called URL description, and then I basically set whatever comes back from the workflow becomes the hyperlink success variable, and that's what shows up in there. So it'll be pending. If there's nothing in there, it'll come a pending ... and it'll be blank. And so the workflow for that, as I step you through it, you also need to call a HTTP request. You don't call get item, and to show you why you don't call get item, to show you why. Because basically get item, if I run through what we've done for the last workflow. Okay, so get item, let's expand that and see what we get back. So I get the site, the name, and then the outputs I've got in here. You think, oh, maybe there's going to be my hyperlink description. And if we go through things to get to it, there it is. Hyperlink column, and it's just the URL. There's no description in there at all. So, oh, yeah, that's not going to work, right? So don't use get item, but you can do it with get a GET request via REST to the HTTP request to SharePoint. So you do that, you call the item, which is the item that we sent, and then in all the stuff you get back from the GET request, if I skip through these, we'll get there in a sec, there's quite a lot that comes back. You could do no metadata, but you're going to want to get metadata because you're going to want to have this item. Alright, so we're getting close. Here we go, hyperlink column, here it comes. And so I can see here, now if I click that again, it's going to push it off the screen, but I've got the hyperlink column and I've got the guts of this hyperlink column. So I've got its metadata, I know it's a field URL value, and I can see there's an element called description, and there's also an element, I knew if I did that, that was going to happen. I can see there's a URL as well, so I can see there's description and I can see there's URL, so I can get this information back from SharePoint if I just use the HTTP request. Now, just doing an HTTP request is enough to get the item. Then we need to do 2 steps to get it back into my SharePoint list. So what I'm going to want to do is a compose statement. You could use a variable. Compose is really easy. Just basically insert compose, and that's what I'm getting, and then I'm responding back. I'll show you how to do this in a sec. Basically, the URL description variable is called Bing, and then that's what goes back to the app. So to put this into edit mode and show you how it works, so we're not worried about that. PowerApps is the trigger, and then the action HTTP request. So basically, all I've got, just do ask in PowerApps, and that's the ID you're going to send through. And you just need 2 headers, accept and content type. It's basically API, web, lists, get by title, so that's the name of your list, and then items, and then in brackets will be the integer value of, or the number of the ID item you want to get. Alright, so that's easy. And then the only fiddly bit is to get that hyperlink description out of all the stuff that comes back from the HTTP request. And I've saved this, so basically it puts it into the SharePoint thing, and if I click it, I'm not going to see the expression, but I'll leave that hovered on over. Basically, you want to create an expression, and it's body, and then send to HTTP request to SharePoint, then close brackets, and it's D, because all of the gump that comes back from the SharePoint REST call starts with a D, and then we've got the name of the column, hyperlink column, and then description. It's as easy as that as an expression. To break that down, this is the info that comes back from the SharePoint, and that's the D. It's basically there. And then go through all this. There's all the stuff we saw, and then it's hyperlink column, and then description. And we just put those in square brackets to make them work. And then that will come through. The first time we do it, it'll be pinky purple. It'll be an expression. Then when you save it, it's going to do this. And if I click into it, go into expression, it's going to be blank. Yeah, good old PowerAutomate doesn't quite allow me to. So if I want to change that expression, I've got to type it again. So make sure if you're doing this, if you're playing with it, save whatever you type there into a text editor so you can play with the expression as you go. And then so basically we've got that description item select from the array that we get back, and then in my respond back to PowerApp, basically this is where I call it URL description, and it will lowercase it as it comes back. So it's URL description, it's a text input, output, sorry, and then the output is just the output from there. So basically dynamic content, it's that basically. Grab that, push it in, save it, and then adjust your button to set the variable get. So basically create a variable so you can show that whatever you're going to respond back from, and that's URL description, and then it'll be blank if it doesn't work, which is fine, but it does make it so it's going to be, if there is nothing, you're not going to get any errors. Basically it's get hyperlink, get item hyperlink, dot run, the ID of the item we want, which is the gallery item that we've just clicked on the button, URL description, and then that will give us the items pending Google link. If you run through this really quickly, you might find that your list items updated and your data source on your PowerApp hasn't, so you might want to do a refresh in there if you need to. Basically, that's how you can show your hyperlink columns and get them in to your SharePoint list. Don't often use SharePoint hyperlink columns in PowerApps to show description and URL, but this is how you can do it, and also how you can do multi-select via creating a collection before you try and patch all that content up into SharePoint. So I hope this has been useful and helped. Any questions, just ask. I will release this, and I'll put in the description on YouTube the location of this Power App and the two flows as well. Just go in there and edit them as needed, but they should give you some templates to start from. So any questions, please ask.